The Effects of Chemicals on Meat by Jayvon Savath. My research, certain chemicals added to food, has been linked to negative health effects. BAP mixed with plastic, pesticides, preservatives, artificial colors, and fat sweeteners. Hypothesis. If I keep meat in a jar with rubbing alcohol, then the meat will be preserved, but not safe to eat. If the meat is kept in acetone, it will slowly dissolve. If the meat is kept in vinegar, not much change will happen. Experiment. I conducted an experiment by putting 3 pieces of meat in a clear jar. The first jar had rubbing alcohol, the second jar will have vinegar, the third jar will have acetone. Variables and controls. The control would be the amount of chemicals. Constraints. The chemicals in the jar will be kept in sunlight. Type of meat will be hot dog. The jar will be sealed. Independent variables. The amount of chemicals will be 2 cups of the chemicals and half a cup of 1/4 cup of water. The results of the meat will be diluted chemicals. My data. Each data represents the 3 different types of chemicals versus the amount of days they have been in there. Most of them are partially dissolved. For the acetone, it had pretty good reaction. For the vinegar, it had pretty much nothing. For the rubbing alcohol, it had relatively nothing as well. My analysis. The first day I observed the 3 jars and nothing happened. The 5th day I observed the jars and the acetone had most of the meat gone from the rest. The meat in the rubbing alcohol was almost no change, except the meat was gray. The vinegar didn't do much to the meat during the week. The meat in the acetone was gone and dissolved into nothing. It had been almost 3 weeks and the jars were murky with no colors. The meat has been almost unaffected by the chemicals of the rubbing alcohol. The meat has been floating in the vinegar has not changed. The chemicals that have been diluted had a small reaction to the meat. The meat has been affected by the chemicals in a small and big way. Conclusion. My method was to gather the same types of meat in a jar with different liquids and check on it daily for more than 2 weeks. My materials were 3 glass jars, 3 different liquids, same type of meat, and a timer to make sure I would wake up and check on a jar daily. The process would be wake up, check on the jars, and to document any changes / results. My theoretical guess was the chemicals in each liquid would be affected the meat in different ways. The result of the chemical to the meat was acetone damages meat, vinegar didn't affect the meat, and corn syrup didn't affect meat. My critical finding was that different chemicals would affect different types of meat differently. My theories led to my guess that the meat wouldn't be good anymore. Most of the experiment had me question if the meat would be safe to eat. Would be 2/3 of the experiments. Some potential finding was only 1/3 had little change to the meat. The experiment went well after a couple of weeks, so the experiment continued a little longer. The end.